This video is going to be a quick review of all of the skills you need to know for the upcoming test on fractions. So there are really three different types of problems that we looked at in the last week and a half or so. And let's talk about what each of those three are, and then we'll do examples of each one. The first type of problem that we looked at was a whole number divided by a fraction. And we answered this in two different ways. We used a visual model, and we also got our first look at the technique of keep, change, and flip. And we'll take a look at this actual example in a little bit. The next type of problem that we looked at was a fraction divided by another fraction. And for this type of problem, we started off using the fraction strips or the fraction bar, but we also saw that we could solve this by keep, change, flip as well. And then finally, the last type of problem we looked at was a fraction divided by a whole number. So again, we have a fraction divided by a whole number, and we first solved that by using fraction strips. And then we also saw once again that we could find this out by using keep, change, flip as well. So we're going to do an example or two of each one of these, and hopefully this will help you understand better how to do each of these types of problems. So let's take a look at our first example. 5 divided by 1/3. Again, we're looking at a whole number divided by a fraction, and we used a visual model for this. So my first step is to create 5 groups to represent the 5 in the whole number. And then I'm going to divide each of these 5 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into thirds, because that's what I am dividing by. So I'm just going to do that, try my best to put this into thirds. It's not perfect, but it'll help us answer the question without it being perfect. And then the question becomes, how many of these thirds are contained in these 5 groups? And I'm simply going to count these. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You also could have done 5 times 3 and gotten the same thing. So we know that when we divide 5 groups into thirds, that there's going to be 15 of those thirds. So we know the answer is 15. Now, like we said, we did the visual model, but let's also do keep, change, and flip. And that's going to look like this. I keep, I change the operation, and I flip the fraction. So remember, we can multiply when we put the whole number over a 1, multiply straight across, and we get 15 over 1, and that's the same as 15. So we get the same answer with the visual model and the same answer with the keep, change, flip. So let's look at a slightly different version of this problem. And it's going to be similar, but we're going to have a different divisor. So now we're going to divide 5 by 2/3. We're going to use the same visual model first. So I need my 5 groups like I did on the last problem. So there are my 5 groups, and I'm still dealing with a denominator of 3 in my fraction. So I'm going to divide each of these into thirds again. Again, doing as good a job as I can, doesn't have to be perfect. But now I have to look at these in groups of 2, because I'm dividing by 2/3, not just 1/3. So I'm going to color some of these a little bit to help us keep track. So there's a group of 2/3. I'll leave the next 2 blank. Here's another group of 2/3. I'm going to leave the next 2 blank so we can distinguish between them. Here's another group of 2/3. Leave the next 2 blank. Here's another group of 2/3. Leaving the next one blank. But this one doesn't work out evenly, so this has a slightly different feel to it. So let's count the groups that we have so far. And I have 1 group of 2/3. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. There's 6. And there's 7. But I have this, this 1 group left over. But it's just part of a group, and that's the really tricky part of this, is what part is left over. And the way you have to think of it is if we had an imaginary full group of 2/3, what's left over is just 1/2 of that. So we have 7 full groups and then half of a extra group. And so our answer becomes 7 and 1/2. All right, does keep, change, flip work for this? Let's find out. I'm going to keep the 5. I'm going to change to multiplication. I'm going to flip the fraction. I want to multiply this, so I'm going to put my whole number over 1. When I divide or multiply across, I get 15 over 2. And it's improper, so I need to change this to a mixed number. So I'm going to divide 2 into 15. I know 2 times 7 is 14. I have a remainder of 1. So my final answer is 7 and 1/2. So you can see we get the same answer using the visual model and by using keep, change, flip. All right, now let's look at the next type of problem that we have. So our next problem is a fraction divided by another fraction, and the way we first did this was using our fraction strips. So let's bring that up so we can take a look at that. So to use the fraction bar, we first of all located the length of our first fraction, which is 2/4. So that's going to be in here. There's our 2/4. And to help me out, I'm going to blank out the rest of the bars so that I can focus a little bit better on the length that I care about. And then my job is to look at the 1/6 row and find out exactly how many of these go exactly into the same length as the 2/4. And as you can see, there are 3 complete boxes in our 1/6 row. And let me highlight this row as well. Yeah, that's kind of hard to see. I'm gonna draw around it. So there's my 1/6 row. Here is my 2/4 row. And we can see that there are 1, 2, 3 boxes that fit in that same length. So that makes my answer equal to 3. 3 1/6 go into the 2/4 length. Again, can we do this with keep, change, flip? So let's try it. So I'm going to keep the first number. I'm going to flip the operation, change the operation, and then flip the fraction. We're going to multiply across, and we're going to get 12 over 4. And as you can see, that's the same as 3. So using the fraction strips and using keep, change, flip both give you the same answer. All right, we have one more example I want to take a look at. And in this example, we are dividing a fraction by a whole number. And the way we first worked with this situation, we also used the fraction bar or the fraction strips. So let me bring that up again for you. So we come at this a little bit different. First, we find the length of the first number, which is a fraction in this case. So that's going to be 1/4. And you can see here's my 1/4 length. And again, I'm going to block off the rest of the page to help me focus in on the area that I need. So I've covered everything to the right of that 1/4 block. And now because I'm dividing by 3, my job is to find a row that has 3 complete blocks in it. And here's one with 2 complete blocks in it. This one's close, but not quite. This one has 2 complete blocks in it, but that's not going to work. So I keep looking. That looks close. But then I can see that I have 3 complete blocks in this row. And so my answer in this case becomes 1/12. So when I'm dividing a fraction by a whole number, I find the length that I care about right here, and then I find a row that has 3 full boxes, and the fraction that row is my answer. All right, so of course the question is, can we also do keep, change, flip? So let's try it. So I'm going to keep. First fraction stays the same. I'm going to change my operation. I'm going to flip. And then the question is, how do I flip a 3? Well, you consider a 3 can be the same as 3 over 1. So to flip it, I'm going to write 1 over 3. I'm going to do my multiplication across. So I'm going to have 1 times 1 is 1. And 4 times 3 is 12. And as you can see, I get the same answer, whether I use the fraction bars or whether I use keep, change, flip. So I hope these examples are helpful to you. Let's review a couple of things that I think will help you. All right, let's talk quickly about some of the skills that you're going to need. One of the first ones is you need to be able to do fraction multiplication. You will also need to know how to convert a mixed number into an improper fraction. And similarly, you need to know how to take an improper fraction and convert it back to a mixed number. And finally, the main skill that you need for fraction division, of course, is keep, change, and flip. So we have keep first, then we have change, and then the last piece, of course, is flip the second number. So that's really kind of a major key to this quiz on Friday. So keep the first number, change the operation, flip the second number. As always, let me know if you have any questions, and study hard tonight, and I hope you do well.